Right, here we are for another Inside Update. Welcome, Fran Bellingham, founder and co-founder of Virtual Marketing. Thank you very much for joining me. We've spent a wee bit of time together over the last few months at least, and we've known each other for the last couple of years at least through your lovely partner, Aaron, but also in your own account where yourself and Martina have done a wee bit of work with Inside, which we've been really appreciative of. So, for people at home, this is Fran. She runs an organisation called Virtual Marketing. She's actually going to tell you about it. I would get nowhere near the total width that perhaps she can cover. So, Fran, lovely to see you. Tell us a wee bit about virtual marketing. We'll talk a wee bit about COVID. We'll talk a wee bit about, everything else that comes under the line of online marketing and digital, and we'll try and wrap it up in about 30 minutes. So good luck.
I'll do my best. Thanks, Troy. Thanks for having me. It's
No worries.
nice. In a way, to be honest, everyone, I've been hearing Troy's voice every day because my husband and I have been working from home during the lockdown. So it's almost like you've been in our house. So it's good to see you again. And thanks for having a chat. So just virtual marketers, the name kind of says it all. We are a dial-up, dial-down marketing resource for companies. We work with small to medium sized businesses in New Zealand, which is, last time I checked, well over 500,000 organisations in New Zealand are up to 20 people. So our view and the reason for us doing what we do is for smaller to medium sized companies, you don't really always need that really expensive kind of top tier, highly experienced marketer to be in your business full time. So we operate with businesses as that person. So whether it's that we're their CMO, Chief Marketing Officer or Marketing Manager, and we work with their different people in the teams to help enable them to do more of the marketing efforts as well. So in a nutshell, we provide a diverse range of marketing skills to organisations as and when they need it, and predominantly in the small to medium space. So we're a service provider for marketing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does to me. It does to me, and I think we've seen that a lot of the world is moving to these virtual services. Hence the name Virtual Marketing. And and you would have seen, but we had Sam from Humankind, we had John from KPMG. It's not different. Well, obviously it's different, but it's not dissimilar in so much as certain organisations can have resource internally. And part of bringing you and talking to you today is I really want to make sure that those organisations who may not have that internal resource or expertise, I suppose my view is they need to know that it exists and they can find it and they don't have to buy it, to your point, on a permanent basis. So, Fran, just, and it's as much for me probably as everyone else, just a wee bit about your background. And I asked that because I think it's important that, they're getting, there's access to good people through the likes of virtual marketing. But I suppose before we get into that, I'll just give some context for people as to your experience.
Sure. So I, surprisingly enough, have been doing it for some years now, marketing. Hard to believe. But I've been marketing for about 25 years, and my background started in radio. So for anyone who's worked in radio, I survived 10 years in radio, worked very hard, did all the different bits and pieces. But you do learn a lot working in that space. So you've got the creative side, the promotional side, the sales side, and the performance side. So and everything that wraps up into that. So I did 10 years in radio, and then I then worked in ad agencies. So became what we called a suit, which would be a client service manager who work across a whole bunch of different sort of initiatives and clients. So I worked across education, and we had some awesome government clients doing behavioural change and things like that. And just lots of different ones, like a beer client. You always want a client like that. So I worked across that sort of stuff for a while, and then I left for 4 years to have my two daughters, my husband and our two daughters. And I took the time to have the girls, and had aimed to be home until the second one was at school. However, we got to about year 4, and I started to really want to get back into marketing and into my career. And during my time at home, I was helping out doing marketing for different people, and I had my own little online shop. But it was really good because I kept the skills going. And then I re-entered marketing into international education, which was sort of a bit of baptism by fire, getting into it, back into the digital space. marketing to 8 different markets and I think 6 different languages. So that was a really full-on entry back into the workforce. But I learned a lot and then took those skills from that into Trade Me, which is my favourite ever place I've ever worked, ever. Up until the last 2 years, of course, because
Yeah, well said.
this is the best employer, right? I rule. But essentially, yeah, then went to Trade Me and really got my teeth stuck into e-commerce and the digital space of classifieds. And I worked in the jobs business and in their insurance business. And for anyone who's worked in either of those two areas, it's a really highly competitive online market. And but it's fun because you get to track everything, and so you know exactly what's happening with your efforts, and also you could save a lot of money. I liked sort of seeing how lean we could run these campaigns and how profitable they could be, providing a nice return on investment. So that's my background in a nutshell. So it's quite mixed. I sort of don't know what I want to be when I grow up, but the thing I love doing the most is what I do, and that's, you know, creating the digital strategies around how you can really optimize the results of your business. And I'm a very strong believer that marketing is sales, it's brand, it's all of those things rolled into one. And it's very heavily online. If you can't be found online, it'd be unusual to not want to be. But if you can't be found online, you're pretty much invisible, in my view. That's easily remedied, but online's the space to be. So I very heavily focus on digital marketing.
Yeah. And with, you know, I suppose, because marketing is, for me personally, as I think my lightest area, my weakest area. You know, I think two things. One is, you know, how does someone build their capability in marketing? Or, Fran, when you go into an organization, what are you trying to diagnose? I work with another organisation. They use this term. Well, we come in, we do a warrant of fitness. In that case, it's around HR. But you know, what are you looking for when you meet a client? What's important for you when you meet a client? What are you trying to identify?
So often we will connect with clients who have an idea of what they need, and so it'll be from different spaces. But the most important thing is that they understand that they need to be in the digital space. And that's the first, absolute first must for us. And also if culturally we align and we kind of feel right together, and if it doesn't feel right, or if we don't think that it makes sense for us to work together for whatever reason, we have lots of other people we know who can help as well. So the key that we look for is if someone comes to us saying they need a new website, for example, we kind of go into the why. So often it's, back in the day, we used to get websites built by really clever people and spend quite a significant amount of money doing so. And my whole view on this now is it's actually really, if you know what you're doing, a lot more cost efficient and effective to be using some of the standard platforms if you are, you know, only requiring more of a website to tell people about the why and the what you do and all of that sort of stuff. So it's irrelevant about what platform you put your website on. It's all about the user experience of your website. So often we have had people say, we need a new website, we need this, that, and the other thing. So we basically stop and go, okay, let's start with your strategy. What is your strategy? What is your main objective? The website's one channel that you use. What needs doing there? What needs doing to your social or whatever other channels? And we go from there. So often we'll find ourselves saving people a lot of time and stress and money by just sorting that stuff out up front. So essentially that's the sort of thing that we look for. Other times it'll be about personal brand or brand building and all of that sort of stuff. So we've got people on our team who specialize in that space, and we just go through a process. And it's not a warrant of fitness as such, but it's more of a discovery session, because things just don't stay the same. So what you may have sent live a year ago or 2 years ago is, you know, in a website or your brand may be a bit stale and may need to be contemporized or speaks to more of the services that you offer. And quite often you'll go to a website and you might search for something. Say I'm searching for, I want to buy a pot for my pot plant. And so I'll search for it, and then I'll click on something, and then I'll come to a page. And if you're thinking about this with your website, if you come to a page, my first question is why? how can you solve my problem? And
Mm.
quite often a web page, a homepage of a website speaks outward about how you feel about your brand and all of that sort of stuff, but it doesn't speak to the problems that people want solving when they come to it. So that's all part of that whole user experience thing, going, okay, so I'm looking for a pot for my pot plant. What I want you to tell me is you've potentially got the biggest range of pots. They're affordable when you're open, or buy online and deliver in 24 hours, whatever solves my problem for me. And then I want to see some pretty pictures of other people having used those pots. So that's as simple as it is. So,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's the simplest fixes that get us the best results. So yeah, so in a nutshell, it's all around looking at the user's experience of your whole brand, all the touch points they see about your brand, and making sure that you're just doing those quick fixes up front. And then we start to look at the things that could be bigger fixes as you go. Certainly key is to get some wins on the board pretty quickly, and you can do that in the digital space.
Yeah. The just in the last it's been 8 weeks, maybe it's 9 weeks now, Fran. Well, what's been happening, you know, I suppose, what are you observing out there in the world of marketing, in the world of online? It just looks, I don't know, is it escalated? Was all this stuff on the way? Have organisations really grasped it now, or is it panic mode, or what's the word on the street thinking about marketing and being online with being off, you know, having to close doors?
Yeah, well, I think, to be really honest, I do like to see things in the positive, and I think it's actually really exciting because we're engaging with more and more people who kind of knew they needed to do it, and this has just accelerated it, and it's so cool because we've been turning stuff around pretty quickly and getting a few wins for some of them just purely by putting them online, or by making it easier for people to book their services or buy their products online, that they're going, oh, it's okay, so they could keep revenue coming in. But also it's been quite, you know, the feedback from businesses, yes, people have lost revenue, but they've also been able to take stock. And I think when you lose revenue and you lose your pipeline, and I'm sure many people know how that feels, I know how that feels, we then go, okay, so how do we really assess how the business is going, protect ourselves for the next few months, and be more efficient with what we're doing? And that is what people are doing. So I think processes are becoming more streamlined. People are using more digital tools for their websites, but also for their businesses in general. And I think the biggest exciting thing is through some of the clients we work with, is they said, oh, you can work from home. You can work remotely. Actually, since everyone's kind of doing it and we were forced to do it really quickly, let's see what that means for our flexible environments and stuff like that. So that excites me because we've been doing that for 2 years. So they're looking at tools, meaning they can keep connected with their staff online and keep connected with their people. So whether it be through Teams or Slack or whatever, they sort of seem quite stimulated by it, going, oh, okay, so we seem to be providing the same amount of output and people seem relatively happy. And that's a generalization. But that's the feeling that I'm getting from the different organizations we're working with. But definitely a push to online, definitely a push to providing helpful content. There's a lot of people wanting to help Kiwis sustain their businesses, in particular in the professional services we offer. I mean, who we work with and what they offer. So they, you know, there's good people out there we're talking to and connecting with all the time, and we're creating some really good free content for people to be able to use at the moment for several of these clients. And everyone knows they need to make money, but it's kind of like we're all taking a bit of a hit to make sure that we're looking after the businesses in New Zealand as well.
And I think you hit on it there, because a lot of the time we think about marketing about being external. So for us, it's about candidates and clients. But I think was your comment to that to say, look, at the end of the day, you know, some of that marketing is towards the employee or towards a different audience, and you've got to, you know, that comes under your umbrella as well. And I don't mean that just under virtual marketing. I mean just under the banner of marketing, you've got to think about your internal brand and the role that it plays in engaging your staff. Is that the piece you were talking to there?
Definitely. And your brand is something that has to start from within. And it sounds so cliche. And to be honest, it's a bit of an eye roller, but it's so true. Because if you look at those really big companies, which we don't work with, but I think that you know, the telcos and the big companies, they can put as much brand beauty on their external brand and a lot of lipstick across all of what could potentially be a pig, but the user experience is not just the person externally using it, it's the people selling those services, and everything you do in a business is selling. So you're answering a call, you're providing help, you're doing all of that. That's all part of the service. And you buy a package and you expect to be able to get what you want with the same smile and all of that throughout the whole experience. If you're going to get something installed at home, you want that person who comes in to be reflecting the brand and to have those values and even know what the vision is. And a lot of times it's done in a silo, in a department, somewhere in the business, somewhere in the country, sometimes offshore. And you don't have that true belief in that brand essence or the value. So I think that's probably where people can potentially go wrong by, I'm redesigning a logo and I've got some lines, which is only a small part of the brand, and having their staff understand, their team understand what that actually means, because they should be a part of building that brand for you and creating it.
Yeah, it's interesting you stated that, because I think about the employee experience and the EVP, and I struck upon it, I think, with Paul. But for me, it's really hard for an organisation, hard for a team, hard for a leadership group to understand, or maybe it's not hard, but let's say it's becoming increasingly grey. For example, who owns digital or who owns employee experience? If I say that to you going, here we have marketing talking about the employee experience and the branding and the service orientation, and then we hear about digital and we talk about, the CIO and the technical aspects of being able to be fully digital. And then we think about human resources and them trying to engage with their audience and the people. And it's really, for me, I find it really interesting. The large organisation where digital now sits, or where the employee experience now sits, or where the experience, whatever they call that top title as well, is increasingly complex. Is there a bit of a fight out there to own it, or do you think there's collaboration between technology, HR, marketing, ops? What's your view on where experience and a lot of that, I suppose, the breadth of experience, where does that sit, and how do people work together on that?
I agree. I think it depends what size your company is or your organisation is. I think the key to it is going, how do those decisions get made, and how new is the company? So if it's been around a long time, unfortunately, there's so much legacy that people pull with it that the users, being internal or external, can often be forgotten.
Yes.
So it's like, this is what we do, this is our brand, and we're going to yell it at you. It's more like, go ask them what it is. So when people engage their teams at that level, and I'm not talking managers of each department, I'm talking the people who are on the front line, talking to the the clients, so the client services team and people like that, and you'll say, what are they saying? And then meet your clients, what are you saying? Is really important, and that's across the whole organization. So for larger ones, that's a really big task, but often you're getting new kind of titles coming out about engagement managers and that's still kind of a tricky space, because IT might work on an implementation of a big old IT program going on over here, and it might take 2 to 3 years, which is yawn, but they're suddenly making decisions on your brand based in a really separate area. So it's really important that they work with you to say, does this look and feel right for our members? So products that are built well for users make sense, but sometimes they're just purely functional, and the terminology is purely functional. So your internal team has struggles using things, let alone your people who are actually using it externally. Say if they're buying something through your website, or they're getting a service through your website. So it's, IT, I haven't had too many issues with IT doing that in places. HR, always grateful for help when it comes to brand and documents and things like that. And there's, tools that are available. Generally, I find that they're quite budget poor, so we like to tag them into what we're doing. And often I'll say, hey, the internal brand, here's your bit. But I think where the grey areas can really fall would be if a comms and marketing team are separate. Yeah. That's generally where the brand disconnect can happen. Potentially if there's a legal team or a team where the due diligence is done, perhaps the marketing can be a bit stripped out of things as well. So you could get that in banks and places like that. And I know they have to be careful but you know, that's something where I see it. So in terms of that, I think the main areas would be, you've got to get your corporate and your brand voice kind of similar. You don't have to be as old school now with corporate. People accept, you know, authenticity, and then getting those teams more aligned. So HR and IT, I don't honestly think it's too much of an issue. I'm trying to think of what other teams and businesses. You know, every point is an experience. So however you deliver your invoices to clients, I guess in bigger companies, it's so one-dimensional, an invoice. But imagine if you just popped a little sweet something in the letter or something, you know, or it looks nicer. It's just part of your brand and it goes out like that. So yeah, it probably crosses every department. No,
that makes sense. And I think again, another conversation I think we're missing, and I think I'd really like to give to small to medium, is, you know, the more engagement, it sounds a bit, this is probably not the right words, but the less thinking you have to do, or the less creation, because your audience, to your point, they're going to start giving you some of what you need to do. You don't have to sit on high or sit to the side, however you want to think about it, and create things in isolation. So if you can engage staff, engage clients. But how do you go about engaging staff, not so much the staff side, but let's say the client side, customer side? You're sitting in a let's say I'm sitting in a small to medium business. What are some of the tools I have, or what some options I have, Fran, you know, to get some of that voice coming through my business?
So the key that we always like to do is speak with the clients. So ask your clients how they like to be communicated with. Ask them what's helpful for them, because it depends what you're offering. If you're offering a really transactional service, don't send 1 million emails to that person over the next 6 weeks about that bike pump you sold them, or about the gazillion-dollar bike, because know your customer's life cycle. It's the most important thing to do. So for example, know when the right time is to talk to these people by talking to them and asking them what sort of stuff they're interested in. Why did they buy from you? What did they enjoy about that experience? What didn't they enjoy about that experience? So depending on what your business is doing, meet with your clients and then look at the channels that help you communicate best with them. Email is an extremely valuable tool for any business to have. Email that is relevant, timely, and specific to the needs of the person receiving it is really valuable. So when I say that, if you've got a database, don't send the same thing out to everyone in that database. So you, for example, might have men and women who have all bought a bike pump in the last 3 years. So you want to send them out some offers about your offers, right? So if I was a female, I'm not probably going to buy a male's bike. Yeah. If that's even a thing now, but yes, I have just bought a bike, it is. But, you know, so talk to me about something that's relevant for me. And so it will be about the best tires for the bike that I bought. So if you know enough about someone, you can provide them with information that's useful. And if you haven't got any information that's useful to them, don't bother them. Don't bother, because if you do that, they're going to stop opening your emails. And if you do that, you're going to pretty much waste your time creating anything that goes in there anyway, because there'll be no return. So what you should also do as part of that is just use a really good tool. Like you can use some for practically nothing. MailChimp, there's other sort of services. But also if you're going to develop content for your email, develop content for your website. Use a bit of that in your email. Use a bit of that on your social media. So the time that you spent developing that piece of content then gets across the different channels that you use to talk to people. And the more content that you have on your website, the better organic search results you get from new people coming to your website. So I guess in a nutshell, have a planned approach to how you communicate with your clients, meet with them, find out the pain points, find out how you can help them. You don't have to actually meet with many of them depending on the size of your database, but ask them and just ask them for the bad feedback, fix that stuff and get it going. And so you can email them relevant offers, you can look at the products that you might want to diversify with and go, yeah, actually there feels like there's a market for that. Let's add that, test that and see if they want to buy it. And ask their opinion. Yeah. The key is ask them, don't assume. Databases, CRMs, you know, how does that work? Something like recruitment, we're huge into our CRM and our ATS being the applicant tracking system, but again, another online business may not see as much of a need
to, let's say, build it. But I would assume, listening to you there, that you've got to have somewhere to have this data sitting. You've got to have somewhere to be able to aggregate it or move it about or segment it, etc. Yeah.
That's absolutely valid. So often we will meet with clients who have a database that they've had building for a gazillion years and or a certain period of time. And the key to know is that a lot of the time in the past, people haven't given you their permission to solicit for sales. So it's really, really important that you're really careful about what you send out to people you have on a list. So definitely using tools that are secure to keep your data in them is a really important thing. So a lot of those out of the box database management tools, I mean, MailChimp's got one in it. There's lots of different tools. They have some pretty clear guidelines on how they protect your data. So make sure whatever tool you use to collect your people who are signing up to be part of your newsletter or even part of your CRM is safe and protected. And when you gather their information, make sure they're agreeing to the terms and conditions that you have. And one of those terms and conditions could be that we, from time to time, will send you a deal or offer we think is relevant for you. If you don't have that sort of information in your terms and conditions, you really should not be soliciting for sales in your emails. So that's something that a lot of people may not fully be aware of, but it's something that I'm very across. I mean, having been at Trade Me and different places like that, it is very important that you protect your database and your members. So it's very important that you don't go and be a bit blasé with an Excel spreadsheet you've got sitting somewhere, or printed out somewhere. So all of that stuff's really sensitive information.
I had to laugh, and I don't know if laughing's the right word, but I just as you were speaking there, I remember with COVID, just how many lists I must have been on, because all of a sudden you started getting these updates from all these organisations you might have done something with in the last decade, and they were telling you their COVID update, and I was like, oh, I just can't remember being part of that, or that my information was held to that point. I didn't feel I didn't feel like my information was ever violated or it made me vulnerable. I just went, it is surprising how many lists you might be a part of.
Yeah, and I think also, Troy, how many of them are relevant to you? Like, were you like, mate, I have not come into your shop for 4 years. I appreciate it's closed right now. So a lot of that, the benefit of doing that for some would have been, I think it was just to take stock and think, do we need to let these people know, or will they just find out when they come to our site and all of that? But I mean, it really, I got a whole sea of those as well. And the whole thing is how much do the people care who are going to receive it?
Yeah.
Why are we sending this? Why are they going to read this? And often, that's a bit of an issue with emails is potentially someone will go, oh, we've done this, we've made this big change to our website, we've made this big change to our product. And I just have to always ask the question, why do they care? Why are our members or our clients or our customers going to care? And sometimes they just simply aren't. So why spend an hour or two creating something when your efforts are best spent somewhere else, especially in a small business where you are so busy that you're really pushed for time, and that stuff can be doesn't generate anything for you.
Fran, if you were sitting in a medium-sized business, you've been affected because you just maybe weren't as active as online. What's your advice to people? And I always say that it's kind of done with, hey, every business is different, but what is I don't know, is it a toolkit? What are the list of things you go, you should be doing this regardless of what industry you're in, almost, or a bit of a catch-all when you're going in there going, if you said you only had a minute to talk to someone, you should be doing this, this, and this. Is there, is there a couple of things that every organisation should do, even if they don't feel like they're an online organisation? I can't think of one, that would kind of fit that. But, broadly, we should all be online now. Broadly, there's an 80-20 rule, whatever that might mean. But, speaking to you, what if someone's listening to this and they go, I hear you talking about online, Fran. I simply don't know how to do it. I'm a builder. I have a website. I don't have anything more, but I've got a big team. I've got a really good offering. Or, I'm doing something else. I'm trying to build my capability. I want my business or my vision to be something in 5 years' time. Can you help them just with some tips or tricks?
Definitely. So if I had a minute to explain what to do, the first thing would be, it would depend on what your objective is, but generally your website is gold. It needs to be top notch, and it doesn't necessarily need to be new, but how are people finding you and what are they seeing? What is their impression of you? Is it up to date? is it fast to load? Are your search engine optimization efforts working? So often people will send a website live, but it's not getting found online. So the key is to make sure that it's set up to get free organic traffic before you even invest in any advertising. So the key is make sure your website explains what you do, how you do it, when you do it, who does it, and all of that stuff, and the why I should employ you, and make sure it's found on Google and make sure it's found there. And the next thing I would do is, if you're looking to grow sales, I would definitely, once that's done, then start doing some social or digital efforts in order to get people who are interested in doing, say, getting something built, who are showing us that they are by searching for certain things around building. Their online behaviors are showing us that we can then send messaging in an ad format or whatever to these people. So target the people most likely to do the thing you want them to do. So often people will say, like you see it now on Facebook, and I don't know if you go onto Facebook, Troy, but you see it where you see someone is promoting their website. It doesn't even tell me what they do. It'll have the name of their business and a picture, but why? There's no why would I click through? What problem are you going to solve of mine? And if it was something about buying steel-toed cap boots, why am I seeing it? Yeah. So these poor people are unfortunately losing money on platforms because they're not across how to target these people, how to find these people and not waste a cent, because every cent's so important, particularly right now. And you want to make sure that, you know, you don't have some rogue saying, I can do your Facebook ads for you or whatever, and throwing it at everyone, because, you know, the scattergun approach doesn't work in digital for you. Yeah. It really doesn't. Yeah, so digital is the place to be, because that's where people, the lowest hanging fruit, will be looking for what you do. So make sure your website's optimized, definitely.
Things like, and I've got no idea because I don't do it, things like Shopify, what does that mean? You know, actually being able to, you know, about being able to purchase online, but, you know, for those who can sell product, how hard or easy is that? Is that part of what you're talking about? You know, you've got website, then you've got trying to promote that, and then you're trying to bring them into your you know, area of interest. Next stage.
So, yeah, first port of call, there are different, what we call platforms, and they're website template services, platforms, companies, whatever. So the ones that we definitely, you know, like to work with is Shopify. I love the way they work. All their people work remotely. So big ups to that. And so Shopify is really good for online stores. There's lots of different choices you can make and things you can plug into that and manage your stock and stuff in the background. WordPress is another favorite of ours. It didn't used to be, but it's got a lot nicer to use. And in fact, a lot of people we're working with now have older WordPress sites. And we're only talking 2 or more years old, who just need refreshed design and all of that sort of stuff. So we're doing a lot of work with people with those sorts of sites. And another site I find useful, you can have shops on either of those two and on Squarespace as well. And these platforms also are starting to get into the email marketing space, and they're starting to enable you to post from your website. So it's starting to become an all-in-one tool as well. Ones I'm not a huge fan of are things like Wix, and I know that they target people over in New Zealand quite a bit. The latency, like the speed of those sites, can be really problematic because they're hosted in random offshore places. So they have to come back and forth for people in New Zealand. It's tricky because it can take a while for sites to load when it's like that. And they're just, yeah, I've had a few bad experiences with that in my experience. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward if you wanted to have a Shopify site or anything. We whip those up for people, and I don't know, we're doing about 10 different website projects at the moment. So we're doing a couple of those, and they're beautiful. They're nice because they're set up with all the search engine kind of starter stuff that you don't have to know how to do all these things just to be able to get started. But it's, you know, just got to plug my organization. It's just really easy for our people to jump in the back end and do something like that for you. And then we train our clients on how to update things, because that's one thing as well. Even if you've got a bigger organization, do not be the only person on the planet who can update your website. That is ridiculous. Like, what we've done in several clients' places is trained someone from each department, 1 or 2 people. They are the subject matter experts in those places. When you've got a site, there's not much can be broken. I mean, it's not like back in the day when, you know, don't touch that green button. but it really is, there's very little that can be broken. You just go back and fix it. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, definitely we'd like to train our clients and anyone else who wants to know how to update stuff on the site. And then we just regularly report on it. So we set up stuff so you'll know if something's broken because your dashboard will tell you that.
Yeah, and I'm probably going to break a golden rule, never talk about the money, but I think there was a time, you know, if you haven't looked at your online, there was a time where websites were hugely expensive and marketing seemed hugely expensive, Fran. You know, I don't know the time frame, but let's just say from 10 years ago to 5 years ago to today, you know, what is the difference? How much has cost come down? If it has come down, I might be making a gross generalization. It just feels more attainable, you know, that technology and being digital and online, you know, there's almost no excuse now.
Yeah, there are totally. So I guess I worked on a website that had a $500,000 budget once. It wasn't my budget, but that's how much it cost. And it wasn't a very functional website. So that would have been probably 5 to 6 years ago only. So, and I've met with clients who have spent tens of thousands of dollars on websites that they, you know, may not have been able to send live because it just wasn't good or right. So we definitely don't operate in that space. So what we do is we tend to focus on 3 main platforms. If it's anything that's a bigger and needs more technical kind of integration with, you know, big CRMs or it's bigger organizations, that's when you get a really good digital agency involved in that. And we do work with several of those as well. So we know what level we operate at. We know our niche and we know how good these other people are. So if it is a website that you're using where you'd like people to contact you and convert and do that sort of stuff, you certainly could be doing that with, you know, people like us to, you know, the investment needs to be in the user experience and design of it. Yeah. The actual creation of it doesn't take that much time.
Yeah, I've always found the hardest part of marketing is that the problem is it starts with the organization. You kind of go, just go do the marketing, and to your earliest point, you go, you've got to come in and understand why, and you go, it's such a tiring question, and that discovery sense, you know, it is quite tiring to go back over it. But until you as an organization or you as a leader know what you're doing and why you're doing it, it's really hard to market.
Yeah, we just went through the brand exercise with us. We had a bit of time up our sleeves over the lockdown, so we started doing it for ourselves, and there were 4 of us in our leadership team in it, and you know, I actually had a bit of a different idea about some of the things and the brand answers. And although I'm the founder, it's very much our business now, and my business partner Martina and I feel that way about anyone who's on our team. And I was like, yeah, you guys are right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a really interesting exercise to do regularly, because that's how you get people to understand your brand, because they are actually a big part of your brand. So a business name and a logo only goes so far. Like, you know, in recruitment, it's all about the people. It's a service. So people are buying people's services, and they need to know that they can deal with you and work with you, and that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's so many levels to it. And I say that, you know, another level, I remember just as you were saying that, I was thinking about the why, but I remember someone asked, and when they went away and did some competitor analysis, and I was like, I don't need to worry about my competitors, I just worry about myself. But part of that exercise I found out was to find out, you know, where the gap was and where we fit within that gap. So our gap, you know, that we were trying to strive for when we did the exercise was being professionally personal. You know, I think things have updated since then, but it was quite a faceless industry for a while. Everyone had a whole lot of stock pictures, you know, that came off the internet. There wasn't a lot of local, there weren't a lot of faces, there weren't a lot of in recruitment, there weren't a lot of cell phones or landlines, for example. People got really nervous that they'd come and headhunt your staff, or, you know, ultimately that just no one wanted to be able to find it. And it's interesting, just we've watched that evolution. It's become more, I think, more personal. So we kind of tagged professionally personal was our external brand, and internally we had another brand which was around number one you. So I don't think the branding, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it was interesting to find those 2 little places where we wanted to operate. And once we found those, it's a nice central thing to put your marketing around, or at least some of your content around.
Yeah, definitely. And also with what you do, it is personal.
Can be.
Is. Oh my gosh.
I'm joking.
Damn right it is.
Yeah.
But it is, like, I have people talk to me about taking the leap into freelancing, and you know, it is not everyone's going to do it, and not everyone's going to change their role. And I mean, it's such a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, people are really passionate about their careers, and, you know, rightly so. And if they are a specialist in an area, it gets pretty intense. So, you know, that makes sense.
And that's where, you know, I think, you know, that it was interestingly because I think once we landed on the marketing element, you know, and I say that going, it is branding, it's about feeling, it's authenticity. But once we put our branding to it, for me as a leader, it was a lot easier to start talking to it. You know, I could go, oh, you know, that should be refreshing, that should be personal. And I was really conscious about what we wanted to get in our feedback, you know, so when you start getting the NPS or you start getting some comments on servicing, I really loved it when they said, oh, that was refreshing, or hey, it was really personal, or you didn't treat me like a number. And I went, oh, the branding's working, or the messaging is working. And, you know, that,
Yeah,
you know, came home that it does work when you get it right.
it does. And when it actually makes sense to you, that's important. Because I've been in organizations where they've sold in the values, told you the values, and then I'm like, what are the values? Because I don't feel the values, you know? Like, one of the things, I mean, at Trade Me, they had "Don't be a dick." That was the one value I remember.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm like, yeah, as long as you're not a dick, you should be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of
Yeah.
people have picked that up. I think a lot of people love
Yeah,
that statement around don't be a dick.
definitely. Yeah. And you need to know what being a dick is, because being assertive isn't being a dick. So you just got to be really, we could go on for hours about that. But definitely, I think that's right. And I think also know when you're creating your brand, stop thinking about your peers. You're not talking to your peers. You're talking to your clients and your
Yeah.
future clients. So often that can hinder you going out all brandy, because you think, no, I'm going to write this because someone else who knows exactly what I know is going to read it and they're going to judge me on it. And ultimately, you always need to know what your competitors are doing. Just because they're doing stuff doesn't mean they're right. And don't write your stuff for them. Write your stuff for the people who you're going to benefit with your service or your product.
Yeah. Again, it's so right. Just as you say that, we had someone did all our information, looked at all our data, etc., and came back. And we had this person in Wellington. I don't know if we should say this actually, but I'm going to say it anyway. But essentially, you know, our target individual was a lady that and someone had named Jenny, you know, and she had these particular characteristics because we had an age demographic, we had things that they're interested in, the kind of qualification levels they might be, and it was really fascinating, you know, once you put a picture to it as well. So we just, you know, the person who had done the work go, every time you market, I want you to imagine you're going to be talking to this person as Jenny. And I went, oh, I get that. And our Auckland office was different to our Wellington office, but I really loved it. And I just went, you know, that
So
again
helpful.
brings it to life. It made sense, and it helped me.
Yeah, so we do that with personas, and they are personas. And you go, okay, so what's your objective? We do that research. You look into the data. You look at and data is great. You can find it in so many places, and in an authentic, okay way.
Yeah.
But it also helps you then go, okay, these are the things these people are into. Here are the things that they value. Here's what's important to them and their decision-making process and everything. And just putting a picture on it. It's a visual thing for some people, and it really is important to have that up on the wall and go, yeah, this is who we're talking to. And that is all part of that brand as well. And
Yeah.
how do you communicate that brand to them? And that should be all part of your personality of your brand. And it isn't fake either. It's just being consistent.
Yeah, and I think to your point, the data is available once you bother to start building it or collecting it to
Yeah.
your point in a way that fits with what you're trying to achieve. And you know, I say that
Yeah.
we started 10 years ago, or maybe slightly longer. And at that stage, we used to talk about in search, the executive part of recruitment, search recruitment. You know, there was a bit of a black book exercise. You never really knew how the recruiter found the names that they might put to the shortlist. And you know, one of the things we wanted to bring was some data and intelligence to it. So we started to go away from paper advertising, for example. And obviously that's long gone now, but I think it should be long gone. Because you could get no data. You know, you want me to go, but you know, they might have come from the paper, and you go, yeah, well, they might have, but they might have also just spoken to someone down the street. But going online and going to, you know, use online information gave us a lot more relevance. You know, we're able to use LinkedIn. We're able to kind of tell our clients, this is what we've done, and this is the measure of came out from that. And from that, here's the long list, and from that, here's the short list. And it was just, you know, it really worked for us, I must say. And to your point around data, it was just intelligent data. You know, it wasn't complex. It was just using some of the data available.
Yeah. And I love it because there was all these terms came out like big data. And I was like, so you mean lots of it? It's like you just, and that's one of the things I love doing is just going, actually what it means is just lots of it. Like big
Yeah.
data, for goodness sake. It's like big brunch.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
I do.
big wine.
I do laugh with Aaron because he'll go a data pond. I go, no one needs to think it's a pond. I mean,
It's
we
just a
get
lot
it.
of
It's a
data.
lot.
Yeah. Oh, it's just, yeah, I know. And that's the thing is people just have all these acronyms. So I know, I see these proposals of what people can do for, it's just like, don't confuse people, just simplify it, just ultimately peel it back and say, get your site working, do these things and see what happens then. Like you don't have to go in all guns blazing. You don't have to do big TV ads or spend at least $10,000 a month on advertising. None of that sort of stuff ultimately matters. If you try and take the best of the lowest hanging fruit by being clever and doing your homework up front, it's the key. And that's all around data as well.
Yeah, no, I completely
Definitely.
agree. Fran, thank you so much for your time. It's been awesome to see you.
Thanks, Troy. You too.
Have a great time. This is day one for me back in the office. I'm not going to stay here, but I popped in just to say hi, and it's still here, and that's a good sign. It didn't get shaken away today.
Yet.
Yet.
No, you'll be fine. It's a good
Good one.
building.
Lovely to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.